Sifu, are you there?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Yo, dude, how you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good with the exception of this week.
Well, is it StarCraft related, or is it things outside of StarCraft related that are going bad?
Oh, it's 100% StarCraft related, dude.
Okay, good. That's
Yeah.
fixable.
Yeah.
So you play Zerg, I assume, right? Just to make sure.
And I play Terran.
Oh, you play Terran. Okay, and
Yeah, and playing against Zerg is what's giving me some trouble.
what league are you currently in right now?
D3. I actually lost like 200 MMR over the last few days.
Okay, yeah, I've been there, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like whatever it was that I was doing just no longer works. I was using like a Hellion opener into Battlecruiser Harass, but it seems like everybody kind of sees it coming and just spores up and makes like a trillion queens, and I can't get anything done.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's the same exact thing I was kind of running into whenever I was doing
Yeah.
it lately, and now my ZVT, there's other ways you can go about it and kind of like
Mhm.
fix it, but it's really up to you as to what you want to do. If you want to make it, I feel like if you want to make your life easier, I still would recommend going mech. Just for like if you're already going into the mech mindset, you could do other mech builds to get you to the same spot. Or if you
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
bio, you could, but
No,
against
yeah, no, mech is way easier.
okay, yeah, I think so too. Against Zerg with Terran, I actually like mech as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Yeah.
We can talk about it. There's a few openers you could do, some ideas, but I think it's gonna be something along the lines of like I actually was doing a build the other day or yesterday a little bit, and it actually seemed like it had a lot of power early game to get you to a certain spot that feels comfortable for Terran, and a lot of Zergs will die to it. Uh,
Okay.
I feel like kind of having like a couple of openers that'll give you some good control of the game, and then going from there into something else uh like you have like like 2 to 3 builds early game that we can talk about that are options for you, and so you can see what one you like the best, and then it all takes you to the same spot though, which is kind of something like it kind of goes into like Hellion Cyclone Banshee roughly.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Do you like using Hellion Cyclone Banshee?
Yeah. Yeah. I've even without having like a perfected build order, just kind of winging it. Like there have been times where I've had success with like Hellion Cyclone.
Yeah, it's
Fun to use. It's easier to use.
yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, it's really, really, really effective if you can like control the Zerg a bit, because you just start getting out of control really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the anti-air capabilities of the Cyclone too.
Yeah, because like if you go air units with it, almost every Zerg is gonna be like, I gotta make Corruptor, and then the Cyclones just
Yeah.
annihilate Corruptors so fast if you can set that up.
Yeah. Like whatever like unit composition, I can use that'll account for the inevitable tech switch into like mutas or corruptors or whatever. Like that would be great.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. I guess just hop online and get a replay started up, and we'll get into a party, and we'll get this going.
Okay, I have no idea how to use Discord, man. I just
No, 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 you don't gotta do anything in here, man. It's all good. Discord's done. We already got it going. So
okay, so I'll open up StarCraft right
yeah,
now.
it's all
I'll
off
open up
battle. It's all off BattleNet now. So just log in and just type in the chat, like right when you log in, just type /join space vibe, and we'll do it from there. Just to like, get a party set up from there. And when you get in the channel, just type in the chat. If you have like multiple channels open, you might have to type like /1 space /2 space. Just
Oh, I see. Okay.
okay. Because mine's on 3. It randomly picks you in picks the number depending on how many channels you've joined before that.
Okay.
And then if for some reason that doesn't work, we can still do it just through the GM list. It's probably the easiest way if the other shit doesn't work correctly.
Okay.
If you just click your portrait in top right on BattleNet, and then hit ladders and then Grandmaster, you
That
can just
is Grandmaster.
yeah, and then just scroll down to rank 65. You can just whisper me straight up, and then we can get a party going that way.
Okay, I see. That.
There you go.
There
Boom!
you go.
Easy. It always works. Never fails.
All right, cool.
Oh, I can actually invite you. You have to invite me. Your thing is
Okay.
on the privacy thing.
There we go.
There we go, dude. And then just host up your replays, and we got this going.
Okay, let's see.
What's up, guys?
Find...
I am doing a coaching lesson, by the way, so I'm gonna probably
Give me
not
1
talk
second,
chat too
sorry.
much. No worries, dude. Take your time. Just whenever you make the replay, the kind of the pattern we'll do here is you host the replay, and then before you hit start, just give me host in the lobby, and then we're good. And then I'll just like browse around the replay and talk. We'll talk about it.
Okay, so let's see. It's 6:50. Here we go. Okay. Watch with others.
You're a natural.
I think in this game, like yeah, these are all. I got like 3 replays in TvZ. This one, like a million queens, and I felt like I couldn't get any early work done.
Yeah, it is harder.
Okay, promote to lobby.
Yep.
Okay.
The mass queen openers is definitely why I have been less of a fan when I play Terran to go for like Banshee openers, and now BC openers too, because you feel like every single game what's happening is you're just getting these Zergs who just flood you and all in you every time you try to move out, or which is like this the super all in style, or you'll get Zergs who just go for this like ridiculously heavy queen style where like, oh, a Banshee showed up and he's already got 5 queens, like just poking it and it just dies immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Banshee openers right now. But if the BC opener does still have potential, it honestly does. You just have to if you do it this game, do you do it this game?
Yeah. I do.
Okay, we can talk about it this game just to give you an idea of how to possibly make it work, how the optimal way to use it is, in case it's maybe not happening. And then after this, we can go into like different openers that are alternatives that might be better and easier for you. Because I have found one that seems really easy, and I'll tell you about it. But yeah, your build. It's the goal of the build, if you want to do it really optimal, is it's really important for Terran. I feel like, because the pacing of your production is really important, because it's not like Zerg where it's like your production is a new hatchery and a new base, which is usually what I coach, which is why I bring that up. But for you definitely don't want to like build things that are not required at certain times. Obviously, it's very, very important. So, and scouting is super huge too.
Yeah.
So
I usually send out an SCV at like 17 just to see what's going on.
Yeah, it's really good, because if you hypothetically if you did scout someone, let's say his hatchery was super late and he had a really early gas and pull, like pull before hatch, you would definitely not want to be building a CC on the low ground. You would definitely want to be building a CC high ground, something like that. Even if you make a Reaper, and you could probably defend it with a Reaper, it's still not a great idea, because if that SCV gets overpowered, it just becomes a train wreck.
Right. So I have a quick question actually.
Sure.
Whenever my 17 SCV is supposed to get to his natural, and I see a hatchery, but it's at like 200 HP.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, should I still build a CC on my high ground, or should I expect like an all in? You know what I mean?
Just to be 100% sure, you should scout the main base of the Zerg every time, because even if you can already tell when the pool is going to happen from the main base. Or sorry, from seeing the natural, if you can already be like, yep, he went hatchery first or he went pool first, you should still scout the main, because you also want to scout for gas. Because no matter what, if you scout around with your like 17th SCV, the Zerg is going to guaranteed have 2 buildings down. Like, he's going to have the pool and the hatch, but you just are finding out what order they came in. But if you see there's also other things you need to look for. Like, for instance, if let's say you see a something super standard. You see hatchery first, you scout into his main, he's got a pool on the way as well. That's going to be finishing roughly around the same time as the hatchery. And then he's also got a gas that has mined 50 gas, and it looks like it's going to be mining 100 gas when the pool's done. That's super standard, and you can go ahead and go home feeling like, all right, well, the Zerg is playing standard so far. And the Reaper that comes later should at least, at one point in time, follow up and scout that gas. Like, you can harass drones, you can kill Zerglings, whatever. But try to at least pop in and pop out and scout that gas, because if you see that Zerg is also still mining gas well beyond 100, you need to maybe think about your build in a way where it's going to not be super aggressive and instead be a bit more cautious, like with the way you're going to use your units. Prepare for a possible roach timing or baneling timing. There is a chance this guy could go for link or overlord speed behind link speed, but that's why it's also really important to keep your Reaper alive as long as possible, because that will, if you scout something like, oh, he's got a really quick roach run, that's obvious at that point. You're like, all right, we got a roach attack coming soon, and we got to prepare for that. If he's going crazy on gas, because if the Zerg is going to macro and the Zerg is going to use a defensive roach run, they will take it, or like a defensive bane nest. It should be thrown down later. And it should also be, the gas should be kind of like stalled out for a little bit and then kind of restarted again a little bit later. Because if the Zerg doesn't stop mining gas, they can't actually spend all their larvae efficiently all the time, especially if they try to take a third too. It kind of falls into the category of more of an all-in if they're going to, or like a timing attack if they're going to do that kind of crap. So that's super huge as the scout. And then, yeah, gas timing is huge if they're playing standard. And if they're not playing standard and they're playing for like pool first type stuff, even if they do or don't have a gas, that's also really important to look at, because you're going to want to know. That's when you might be like, all right, time to CC high ground, because there's a good chance like 6 or 8 lings are going to run across the map and try to just like deny a CC if my Reaper moves out of position, which will guaranteed happen. So yeah, that's yeah, that's just like early. And then also, if you can scout like an early pool, like say pool first, and you see no gas, that's realistic in the sense that this Zerg is most likely going to take a third base, and they're going to just macro, and they're going to probably take a gas eventually that for defense purposes and go to a mid game. But if you see a gas that's being mined really early with pool first, you need to be even more cautious, and I would recommend possibly even like if you're going to go for like a mech style opener, maybe even opening up with like a defensive like 1/1/1 into Banshee really fast, or like a defensive maybe Cyclone or Tank first, because there's a good chance this will be a Baneling bust or a Roach really fast Roach all in. It's happened to me many times.
I think that's actually like the replays.
Yeah, and then the last thing, like the last thing about scouting a Zerg is if you see a Zerg who so we've talked about gas scouting, it's really important, but let's just say last scenario that we don't know about yet, the Zerg expands, the Zerg has a pool, they both might be a little bit delayed or something like that, or it just looks like you scout over to his base and you see both the hatchery and the pool are not done still, and then you also see like go into the main base, so you don't see a gas either, and you don't see like any of the larvae getting used. Something like that. Like looking at larva is super important as well, because if you were to see a Zerg's larva that is not actually, it doesn't seem like he's spending all of his money, there is once again another chance where the Zerg could be doing a weird build to you, like let's say proxy hatchery with some type of like a spine push or something like that, or like eventual ravagers, because there is no reason not to spend all your larvae early. And you can see like this Zerg right now, looking at this where it's paused. This guy has 3 larvae sitting there.
Yeah.
And you have not actually seen a third hatchery yet because your SCV just got there. And right
Command center upgrade complete.
now you see 3 larvae. You see he took a gas still, but he's not really mining it anymore at this point. He's mined about 100, but he still doesn't have the larvae spent. If you see something like that, you can already go, all right, this guy's got a third hatch somewhere. So your next reaction to this should 100% be, I'm gonna go check that third base, and if there's not a third there, which you're checking with something, your SCV is gonna eventually get there, which is good. But yeah, that's a sign of potential aggression right there.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, the biggest thing of all, like scouting little things like this early game are really helpful for you. But the biggest thing of all is definitely keeping the Reaper alive as long as you can. Because that gives you just follow-up, more real detailed information as to what choices the Zerg makes. Yeah, and
there's like nothing intuitive about scouting Zerg to me.
Yeah, it's there are limitations, but yeah, there's a lot of things Zerg can do, but most of what the Zerg is capable of early, we've kind of just talked about. I will say right now though, there is a little bit of a hiccup in your build.
Okay.
So the build order for you, and after saying a Zerg is going for a hatchery first, you can totally do this, and your SCV. I feel like your SCV might want to be a tad bit earlier too, just to make things more of a better pace for you. So,
do you mean the scouting SCV?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're, because you said you're sending out SCV 17, right?
Yeah. So, I think in this particular game, he sent in a drone to harass. Sort of caught my SCV on the way out because I A move to that position, the natural. So it sort of dragged him back for a minute.
Okay. So what I would recommend you do is as soon as you start your barracks, the next SCV, so SCV 15 basically, that pops out of your command center. That one, just rally your command center to like his main's mineral line, just for that SCV only, and then rally it back right after, and let that SCV go literally walk all the way to his main base, and while it's going down there, just go back to doing your build accordingly, and your build's going to be a supply depot barracks, and then your SCV will get there before the barracks is done. And if your SCV sees what looks like a hatchery first, and you can confirm it by scouting the natural and the main, but if you see a hatchery first, 100% take that SCV as soon as it's done building the barracks, walk it down to your natural, and build a command center. And if you see what looks like a pool first, not a hatchery first, make that same SCV, instead of making it on the low ground, make it on the high ground. But you should always be building your command center before your second gas and before your second depot. So
can you say that one more time? I'm sorry, I'm trying to write this down while you're talking.
Yeah, no worries. So your very first built SCV builds a depot, and then you don't ever stop building SCVs. And then as soon as the SCV is done building a depot, you build a barracks with him. And at the exact same time when you build a barracks, you build your first gas.
Right.
And then when you scout, your SCV that's scouting is SCV 15. And it should get to your opponent's base just before the barracks is done to see what's happening. And if it's safe, if it is a safe thing, barracks SCV now becomes command center SCV on the low ground. And then if it's not safe, you do the same SCV, but it builds it on the high ground.
Right, okay.
And then you do not start, and then you make a Reaper, and then you make a Marine, and then you make a Reactor, like you have this game. But you do not start gas number 2 until you start Factory. They start at the same time. Otherwise, your build's going to be delayed, because that's what's happening right now. You have too much gas being mined too fast. You're going to have a lot of gas to work with really quick that you can't actually use yet. Because you can see you already started the Factory, and you also already started the Reactor for costs, and you still have 100 gas in the bank. That's not optimal for you.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then what it's doing really, though, is it's delaying your natural super hard, which you can build now, but it is already delayed a bit.
Okay.
And then as soon as the factory is done, you immediately start a starport, and as soon as the starport's done, you immediately start a fusion core. And what I like to do with the build lately is as soon as the starport's done and I'm starting the fusion core, I actually will build a Viking on the starport first, and then I will build a tech lab on the factory, and I'll just swap them when they're done. And the Viking will just kill overlords, because the one thing I've noticed lately in this new version of this patch that becomes a problem with the BC opener is Nidus. Anyone who Niduses you is a super problem.
Yeah.
So the Viking, literally all it does is it just kind of like goes around your base and makes sure there's no overlords around you. And then the biggest thing of all too is when you're doing this build, every bit of the pacing of this build, try not to neglect SCV production. As long as you have like one SCV queued up within the last like 2 seconds of the one that's already building, it won't really stall your buildings out, and it won't stall your SCVs out. But if you do things like where you have 2 queued up at like right away, where it's like 100 minerals is just invested in the command center for a while, that could hiccup your production a little bit. So you do have to kind of like pace it well early.
Add-on complete.
Uh, and then also the SCV that's scouting right now, I would say that should be a Reaper at this point. You are losing, like, once the Reaper's out, as soon as you confirm that it's not a once you confirm that it's not a pool first, 100% that Reaper could keep the Zerg defensive without a problem, and your Hellions would be able to deal with Lings once they get speed. If he actually were to somehow run speed Lings around the map, you'd be totally fine having the Reaper go out aggressively. Because what'll happen is if you scout, he's going hatchery first. Okay, like he's hatch first Zerg, and he's gonna macro like this guy has. If you go into you rotate the SCV and the Reaper out, and you send the Reaper in now to replace it as soon as it's up, the Lings will be built right around the time the Reaper gets there, even if he builds them right away. And if the Reaper were to do, or if the Zerglings were to just like do something like, let's say he makes Lings out of his third base or something like that, or I don't know, like, so let's say your Reaper somehow jumped into the main base and he made Lings out of the natural, and he immediately walked to your base. Somehow there was like the two ships in the night and they just passed each other, and he didn't realize this happened. Even if the Zerg does that, and you prioritize on going, all right, nothing defending drones, let's attack them, I guarantee you could kill like 3 or 4 drones, which is going to be more than the Zerg will get 100% by counterattacking your natural with slow Lings. Because at the most, what's going to happen is he'll kill 1 SCV that just built the command center, but that guarantee the command center will be done by the time he gets there, and you'll just have to like lift the command center for a second until your Hellions clean them up, which is way less damage than the Zerg would take. So most Zergs will not do that if it's hatchery first. And also the other thing too is if the Zerg is greedy as hell and is actually one of the kind of Zergs who does not make Lings at all, there's just so much opportunity to do damage there, and you're kind of missing out on it if you don't use the Reaper aggressively.
See, okay.
My biggest recommendation to you though would be for doing something like this. Just get, because it's going to happen though. I can already tell you what's going to happen to you in a lot of your games if you're not used to doing this. It's going to make you feel like you're messing your build up a bit if you don't do something. And I would recommend having 3 control groups. And this is how, like, I believe you're kind of already doing it. But you definitely have a command center control group. You have a production control group, and then you have your Reaper. And what you would want to do is you really try your best to remind yourself, like, every 5 seconds. At least like every 5 seconds, to be like, hit your command center control group, then make sure you're making SCVs. Look at your money, make your SCVs, whatever. Hit your barracks control group or your production control group, and make sure you literally spam the key. A lot of times what'll happen is like the rotation of buildings for production always goes like this. If you have them all in the same group, it goes barracks first, factory second, starport third. So a lot of times when the Reaper's attacking, what's going to happen is it's going to be right around the same time that you have a barracks done, and it's making like a marine at this point, and you need to make a and your factory's almost done or something like that, or it's like being built, and you're going to be wanting to time that reactor properly. So literally while you're moving out the Reaper, you could just be like, Reaper, attack the area. Like, go over there. Then command centers, S, like, just hit S a couple times on it, and then hit your barracks, and then just literally spam C on your keyboard. And then make sure your reactor goes up at the right time, so you don't miss it. Because, you know, C is the hockey for reactor, and then it's totally fine. Even if you're not looking at it, just set it up. And if you're in a position, though, where you're like, all right, fuck, I got to lift my command center, I got to go back to my base and physically grab it, lift it, move it, land it, build the reactor. If that's becoming a problem for you, and it's annoying, what you can do to fix that is, if you're going to be aggressive because you see the Zerg is going for a non-aggressive opener, he's gone hatchery first, just honestly move your barracks the second the Reaper has been built and it's done. Lift your barracks to the side for 2 spots open for a reactor and land it, and then build the marine, and then do the reactor. That way you don't have to come back and fix it when your Reaper's actually fighting something. Because if the Zerg is going to be aggressive and he's going pull first, you're not going to move out with the Reaper anyways. So it's not going to be an issue at that point.
Right. Because my attention will be on my main.
Yeah. So you'll be defending anyways. But yeah, I would recommend doing. You could do that just to make your life easier. You could just pre-move the barracks, and then as soon as your buildings finish, you have two ways to kind of monitor that. One way is I can't really show you this right now. Or yeah, I can actually. If you click buildings right now, click your barracks and hold shift, click your factory, and then click your starport. I'm actually gonna go back really fast because I'm gonna make this a better example. Now, right here, have all three of your buildings selected: your barracks, starport, and factory. And this is how you can. This is one of the two ways you can tell your buildings are done, and you need to take a second to look back at your base to fix what's going on. And if you look at the barracks and you look at the factory, you see how they have checkered little lines, checkered boxes in the right under the production. It's those lines appear because it's done, and then you can see the starport. Not only the fact that it's got yellow, fucking health, or like the building is yellow because it's not done yet, but it also doesn't have checkered boxes yet, which is the other confirming factor that it's not done. So instead of having to go back to your base all the time and be like, all right, let me check, it's not done. All right, let me go back to my Reaper. Let me go back to my base. Is it done? That's not done. Instead of doing that, just hit. It looks like your buildings are on 2. You can just have your Reaper down here like fighting a drone and just hit 2 and look at that and then go back to your Reaper again. And it'll save. It like takes about literally half a second or like a fourth of a second to look at that and just be like, oh, okay, good, we're good, and you can continue using your Reaper effectively. And it will. Getting in the habit of doing that, it's really only important, like required now. This is not really required all game, but now it is. And doing that will help you kind of just like quickly identify if your buildings are done, to have to like take a second to look back, which maximizes your Reaper uptime, and it'll give you a pacing and where you go. If you're in a situation where the starport's done or the building is done and you need to do something with it, you can take a second and move the Reaper back, and then go back and fix whatever needs to be fixed, and then get it going for the next step. But never do that when you're in the middle of fighting something ever, because if you do that, your Reaper will die.
Okay.
And then also the other thing too is just to make it more comfortable for yourself. Every single time your Reaper fights something, and let's say you pick off 2 Zerglings and a Queen smacks you a few times, or like you pick off a drone and a Queen smacks you a few times, and now your Reaper is at like 15 hit points and you got to back up. Every time you back up, take that time to run the Reaper to a safe distance, and as it is running away, look at your base, and probably you're going to want to build a depot. Because if you pace it every time like that, it's going to be probably every like 20 seconds, every 25 seconds that's going to happen. And if you build depots every time you do that, it's also going to prevent you from having these issues where you're like, ah, shit, I'm blocked again. Like, oh god, I can't build anything. So just try to maximize like the pacing of how it all works together. It is going to be really annoying at first, but if you don't do it very often, but it's so worth it. It's kind of required the higher you get.
Okay. Got it. I'm noticing in this game now I didn't do anything with my Reaper.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's all good. You know, it happens. But it's definitely opportunity lost if you don't.
Yeah, totally. No, totally.
And I do recommend though, like we said before, making a Viking, because a Viking actually builds faster than a fusion core, and I feel like there's just so much like dead time with this build, and you can totally afford a Viking too. So definitely do the. And by the way, earlier I said make a tech lab on your factory. I didn't mean to say that. You make a tech lab on the barracks. The barracks just becomes like add-on creator for the other buildings. But yeah, you just make Hellions, and then you make the Viking, and then you can make, as soon as you can afford it, the the tech lab on the barracks is the last thing that's needed. Priority of your build is definitely going to be the pacing of the factory, and then the starport, and then the fusion core, and then the Viking, and then the tech lab. So that order should be done. Don't do it outside of that order, because if you do, it's just going to delay the BCs.
Oh,
they're like really hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, always do it in that order. Like everything going up to BCs is first, and then you squeeze in the other, like the Viking and the tech lab around it.
I see. Okay. And yeah, tech lab on
the
barracks.
Yep. Because the amount of time a tech lab builds on the barracks is only 18 seconds, which is the fastest part about all of that. Because the fusion core is 46, the Viking is 30, and the tech lab is 18. So if the tech lab is last, it'll still line up with everything else just fine. But if you make a Viking, And let's say there's like a small window of time where you have to wait as well, right after you start the fusion core and then make the Viking. Let's say it's like 8 seconds of time where the starport's done to where you then start the Viking. That would be 8 seconds on top of the Viking itself, which is 38 seconds, and then you'd have to do 18 more seconds on top of that to then make the tech lab. So it's best to use it if you're going to do the Viking, to then use the barracks to account for the tech lab time, because then what would actually happen is you could actually squeeze the Viking out and then lift, move, land, and you'd still get there like right as the fusion core finishes to get the BCs going.
That's
and then you just obviously as soon as you have the BC started and you can afford it, you would start the Yamato cannon, which is the Yamato cannon's not as big of a deal now as it was before, but yeah, you still do want to start it when you can afford it, because it'll make your second battlecruiser have Yamato, and then you can start knocking queens out 2 at a time.
okay. Yeah, I feel like I kind of discontinued getting Yamato just because of the refit, the research time extending.
Yeah, it's definitely nerfed it a bit. You can't really knock out the first queen as easy now. All right, this is what we got to talk about. This is the part of BCs I feel like which makes or breaks this build. So what you want to do with this build is a queen has more range, or sorry, yeah, a queen does have more range than a BC does. It's 6 to 8, and a spore crawler has if there's spores here, the spore crawler does have more range than a BC as well by 1. But the problem with the spore is it can't cover everything because it's stuck in one spot. So what you kind of want to do here is you want to abuse the fact that if queens are on a move chasing your BC, which a lot of Zergs will do, is you want to stay in that 2 dead zone area between a queen and the BC for the 2 units basically. And what will happen is your BC will go, I can't attack the queen because it's out of range, but it will still attack while moving. So you can fly your BC in a line that's like perpendicular, or not. It's like adjacent, I guess. It's just opposite of the queen. It's like a plus sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just fly in a line along the drone line while the queens are smacking you out of range, and you just wipe out drone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see.
Because the BC won't attack the queens if they're not in range.
Right. And this might seem like a really stupid question, but like, after 49 seconds, my first move was to always take out a queen. So like now that I don't have that with my first BC, should I just, like, I guess that's what you're saying, is to prioritize killing drones.
Yeah, you should kill a queen if there's only one. Otherwise, kill the drones. Like, avoid the queens and kill the drones if there's like multiple.
Like in this situation, obviously, right? Because
there's 2 reasons to this, and one is because if there's only one queen, let's just say hypothetically you teleported behind his main base, and you fly into the main, and he only has one queen there and a bunch of drones mining. The reason why it's good to kill the queen is because you're gonna fly. Like, I have to sneeze. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to fight off sneezing right now. if you
I know you're pain.
Yeah, if you fly at the queen over the main hatchery, you can kill that queen, and then the drones are super exposed. And also, if he decides to now run them away, which a lot of Zergs will try to do, you can chase the drones down and kill like probably 3 or 4 more before they get away from your BC, which is super huge for you, because not only is he losing mining time, but you also capitalized on killing more drones than you otherwise could have. But if there are multiple queens ever, like 2, 3, 4, doesn't really matter as long as there are more than one. Avoid fighting the queens if you can, and instead what you should do is just skirt the edge of the mineral line like we talked about, and you just kill drones. And as soon as you run out of opportunity to kill drones, stop doing it altogether. Just back up and like fly out of the airspace of what queens can hit, and you can just like go around the edge and go somewhere else, hit a different base, and try it again. And even if every single time you do this, you only kill, let's say, 2 drones, and then you back up, it's okay, because if the BC has a lot of health, the big thing about BC and why it's so good is when you have 2 of them. That's when this build gets out of hand. So, because what would happen is, let's just say by the time your second battlecruiser finishes, this first BC still has like 400 hit points left, or like 350 to work with. And then now also it has a Yamato cannon, and the second BC when it arrives also has a Yamato cannon, because now by the time your second BC comes out, your model will be done. You could now have two BCs in two different mineral lines, and you could literally do it like this. You could just be like, all right, this guy has spore crawlers, or he has queens, whatever. Let's say he has defense that you know about. You could just micro one BC and kind of like, the BC has a pretty large vision radius. You could just kind of come to the edge of the mineral line and be like, if there are queens there, throw Yamato at it. And if there are a lot of queens there, don't even try to commit to that mineral line. Just back up the BC to a safe area and forget about it for a little bit. And then go to your other BC. Just have them in different spots. And with the other BC, now do the exact same thing. Like, you can see the mineral line. If it looks exposed, abuse it. If it has defense, skirt it or Yamato it and back up. Just keep annoying the shit out of him, because it'll create lots of problems for the Zerg if you do this. And then but if you do see an exposed mineral line, which will happen way more often if you're hitting him in multiple spots like this, you then abuse that mineral line. Just abuse it if it's exposed. And then you can do something like, you could do something where you make the Zerg feel really thinned out and really his defense is really thin everywhere, where you can let's say you have a BC in the main and a BC in the natural, and you're just going in and out with both of these BCs, just testing and seeing if anything's there, and if there is, you just back up. And you could have, then when both BCs have backed up, you could send your Hellions to like just outside the next space you want to attack him, maybe like to like right here or something like that on the map. I don't know if you can see the ping, but
yeah, I saw it.
Okay, like right there would be like where your Hellions would be chilling at right now, like just outside creep. And then if you see, oh, he's got defense in the main. Okay, he's got defense in the natural. Just test with your Hellions and to see if he has defense at his third. You do not have to take any of these fights if he's already prepared for it. Because at the very least, what you're doing is you're taxing this guy's defense really hard right now by doing minimal aggression yourself. You're only abusing it if he does not have defense. And then if he ever does not have defense, one time. Just one time. And you just wipe out a mineral line. You've already basically won the game.
Right.
Because all you want to do, like, if nothing happens, if you were to actually kill 0 things, but you made this guy produce a shitload of queens because he has to be safe with this, and you made him build static D, and you made him build really safe like roaches and stuff like that. You made him just play real safe. Even if that's what you accomplish and you don't kill any drones, you're still on par with the Zerg. Because as long as you keep your build going as well, and you get like the third CC going and the double factory with Hellion Cyclone now, and then eventually after a third base is thrown down, you get double starport with double armories, and you have upgrades going and stuff like that. You're gonna be great. You're gonna have so much power in the mid game that you'll be totally fine to like fight against the Zerg. But it's like it's obviously ideal if you kill drones, because then you just get these leads that feel great. But just what the main thing I'm trying to make you understand though is just make sure you don't throw away your units trying to kill a drone, because it's definitely the pressure, the future pressure is way more beneficial to Terran than the current I'm gonna kill 2 drones and then my pressure's over mentality.
Yeah. As you're speaking about this, like, it's coming to my attention that I do have a tendency to just sort of donate units for in like some like foolish attempt to destroy some like minimal amount of shit.
Yeah. Because there's 2 parts about it that are bad for you, and one is obviously you could actually potentially get way more damage done to him if you're more patient with it, and the other thing is as soon as the Zerg kills your shit, he will counterattack you, and then now you're the one who's like, I can't be as greedy now either, because now the Zerg doesn't have this like pressure feeling, and then now it's just you lose control of the map basically, and it sucks.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Like how you doing your BC right there was perfect. You did take a lot of damage to the queens at first, but then you just said, no, I'm going to go over here. And you just killed like 3 drones, and you made him pull a mineral line, and you took 0 damage for that. That was really good.
Okay.
You just always want to like take fights that are just exposed, and you just test, and look, you're doing it again. There's nothing here other than 1 queen, and 1 queen's totally fine. Because now, the reason why 1 queen's always good is because 1 queen is going to get overpowered before other queens get there, and you will every single time make him pull the mineral line. And getting your BC shot by like 5 or 6 times by 1 queen before it dies is definitely worth the damage your BC will take to make him pull his drones like that. Because now he's once again losing Like just by pulling like 16 drones off this mineral line for let's say like 25 seconds or 30 seconds, he's losing like 250 mineral or 250 like resources just for doing that. And then if you're you have a like a second BC right now, like let's say you were to teleport your second BC to like his natural. Look at the natural right now. It's only got like one queen and that's it. And then if your Hellions, let's say we're to go like to the third. The third does have a couple spines, but it has like you have so many Hellions that you could easily go in there and roast a mineral line and lose maybe like 4 Hellions and get out.
Right. Is it I have another question for you.
Sure.
Like in the game like this, like is it worth it to scan in order to determine like what the optimal targets are?
No. You need that money to have your own build run. You're kind of squeezing your build for as much as it has. But also I will say too, it's nice that you just killed the hatchery with these hellbats, but your armory is actually too early. I was gonna point that earlier, but I kind of got sidetracked.
Oh, okay.
Your armory does not go down until you start your starports, your extra starports. So the pacing of the build goes kind of like this. You have I already told you like the opener of like up to the fusion core and like when you start the BC and stuff like that. But as soon as you start BC number 2, you start command center number 3. And then like that you'll have enough money then to do that after you start the second BC. And then so you're basically your third command center should already be done right now. And then you do not make another factory until you have enough minerals to make it, like after the command center while making SCV still and while trying to make some Hellions. And what will usually happen is around this point, you're going to start having mules mining like 2 at a time. So you'll probably have 300. Like what I do is I just wait till I have 300 because it goes really fast. And I just throw down 2 factories at the same time after I start the third CC. And then after that, I will start, and then I have the double tech labs going on those, and I start Blue Flame and Magfield Accelerator, the Cyclone upgrade. I start them both at the same time, and then like after I start those upgrades, I then start 2 starports and 2 armories at the same time. And then this will happen when I saturate, like, because by the time I start the starports and those upgrades are going on the tech labs, my third should be floating and landing towards my third around this point. And if I made SCVs well, and I didn't get distracted too much of my own macro while I was attacking, I should have like 28 to 30 SCVs on my natural right now that I can grab like 10 to 12 off of, or like 14 even, depending on how many I have, and just to leave 16 on it, and send them to my third base. And now I have like a fully saturated third that I can once again now drop like another 3 mules on, because now I have 3 orbitals. And then you're like going to be so rich at that point that you can afford to throw down like 4 buildings at once, which is the starports and the armories.
So it's not even worth it to have an armory for the sake of producing hellbats.
Nope.
At this point.
You don't want it. Because good Zergs will always defend this with roaches, and hellbats will not do anything to roaches.
Yeah, right.
So, like, if you find a Zerg player that's like, I'm going mass Zergling, that's it. You can still beat Zerglings just fine with just Hellions, especially if you have like 10 of them. But the only one that would be as scary is if, like, I guess you ran into like a full surround and you weren't paying attention, and then yeah, maybe the Zerglings will kill you, or if he has like Ling Bane. But that's when it's kind of up to you to make sure you're always paying attention to the right attack.
Okay. Which
is kind of how I was talking to you about the pacing. Like if you just do something like this, okay? Let's just say you want to use your Hellions. This should be the sequence of things you do. Okay, I'm going to use my Hellions, but first I'm going to have BC and main go into main. All right, I pulled things into the main, and he's now paying attention to the main. BC, go to natural. Okay, BC's in the natural. I Yamato a queen. I'm killing some drones. He's pulled things to the natural. Now, right as I back up my BC at my natural, and I've caused this confusion for Zerg, because on your end, it's just like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's much easier. But on Zerg's end, he's like, gotta pull my drones, gotta run my shit around, maybe move a spore, run my queens, transfuse. Like it's annoying as shit for Zerg, and it's gonna really tax him way more than it's gonna tax you. And then at the exact same time, when you're taxing him at his natural, after he's been taxed for like another 5 seconds before this, Hellions run into the third, and you watch your Hellions. You don't try to micro it where you're like trying to micro all 3 at the same time. If you get really good at Terran and you can handle that, sure. But for now, when you're getting used to it, don't do that. Just do it one by one by one. But you can do it quickly, though. Like, you can literally move BC out as soon as you tell BC in the main to leave the main to a safe location. Don't stare at it and watch it do it. Just have BC number 2 go like to the natural. And sorry. Oh my god.
That's all good, dude. I sneeze all the time.
Yeah. It's like I'm talking. It's like irritating my nose. So like when you tell one unit to leave, you don't have to watch it leave. You could just tell the second unit to go in, and it's the same exact thing. As soon as BC at the natural has like done its damage or you've pulled things out of position, you can then be like, all right, let's leave. And then as soon as it starts leaving, go immediately to your Hellions and watch your Hellions and be like, all right, let's attack. And if he's got like a ton of lings there or something, you know, that you need to worry about, you can micro it and try to like kill it. And if it looks like it's a bad fight, just don't commit to it. Just be like, oh, let's back up. And you could then even make it really confusing for the Zerg. And if the Zerg player is really well defended for your first attack, where it's like, he's got 4 queens in the main, and I didn't really get to kill it. I Yamato'd a queen and I backed up. He's got 4 queens in the natural. I didn't kill anything, but I Yamato'd a queen and I backed up. And he's got like a bunch of units at the third. I didn't kill anything. He zoned me out and I backed up. You could actually just rotate your units. You could be like BC at the natural, teleport to the third, and BC or in Hellions go to the natural now, and try it again. Do the exact same thing. Like BC attack, Hellions attack, and just rotate them in and out. And you make it confusing for the Zerg because you don't make it the same every time. If the Zerg is good at defending it the first time,
right?
So just but if you just don't throw the units away, you keep the pressure feeling still there for Zerg.
Okay. I have no idea why I built my third there.
It's all good.
Not what I meant to do.
It's a ninja, dude. It's a ninja, but it's scouted. But yeah. So, like, harassing the Zerg correctly is definitely it's a way about how this build can be powerful. And you can see right now, like, your attack is kind of over, which is okay. It's at this point now, at like around 9 minutes, it's an acceptable time to stop harassing the Zerg and go for more behind this. But the thing that's kind of not good for you, though, is if you look at resources lost, even though you're ahead in that regard, you're actually behind in workers and also in the supply overall, which is it's close, but you're still behind. But I actually, you would actually be more behind if the Zerg macroed better. But I actually think even if the Zerg macroed better, but if you also macroed better, I think you would actually still be ahead. And the reason why is just because of the pacing of your build. Like your natural was a little bit delayed for things that we talked about before, and your third base was also delayed because you made more factories before you started the third. Because you can see you already have 3 extra factories with 3 tech labs before you have the third done. That's way too early. And the reason why this is all happening is because around 9 minutes, you could have like 66 SUVs, and you could already have a fully saturated third base. So
and one more thing. I'm sorry,
sure.
But earlier that I should have my third done before I add on any additional factories beyond the 111.
It should be started. So the pacing of the build is I'll start it from when it goes to battlecruiser, when you're starting your first battlecruiser. So BC number 1 is started. You have to constantly maintain SUV production the whole time. Don't ever stop doing that. That's like the most important thing. Make sure you're also maintaining supply depot production, because it's going to start going up really fast. Because every single time you make Hellions and a BC, that's 10 supply. Plus SUVs the whole time, which is just adding to it. So you're going to need to make a supply depot probably every like 20 seconds at this point, or you can make like 3 depots every minute if you want to. Like every minute, just make 3 more if you want to keep it easy to not have to be like paced every single few seconds here. And then try your best also to not supply drop if you can. Like try to just maintain the depots on depots, because mules are a lot more beneficial here for making the build run smoothly. Like if you fuck it up, it's okay to drop a supply depot, or to drop supply on a depot, but it is better to mule drop.
Okay.
And then after you start the second BC, your next available resources, instead of going into a third BC, would instead go into a third command center.
Okay, third CC. Okay.
And then you go into, as soon as you have the third CC invested into and it's now being built, your next resources go into double factory, an additional double factory.
Factories, okay.
Those factories both start tech labs, and they both upgrade Hellion and Cyclone. And then your next available resources, as soon as you have a next like wave of resources again, is going to go into double starport and double armory at the same time, or roughly around the same time. And as long as you're maintaining SCV production during this, it'll what's it called? You'll be able to afford it basically, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna have double upgrades going on Hellion Cyclone. You're gonna have double upgrades going on tech labs on your starports. It doesn't matter which ones you do, but it's gonna be cloak and banshee speed, and then you're gonna just literally make banshee, Cyclone, Hellion. That's gonna be your comp for now. At that point, and then you're only going to get ship weapons and armor, because armor is universal, which is great, but ship weapons are way more beneficial here than ground weapons, especially for this kind of a build. And the reason why is because Hellions don't really matter. The units that Hellions are good against, damage wise, they're going to kill them in 2 shots anyways, which is basically Zerglings. And then Cyclones don't actually benefit from weapon upgrades when they're locking onto units. It's considered a spell. So it does the same damage regardless. So you get really very limited amounts of damage increase from ground attack. If you do go Thor though, okay, if you're gonna go for Thor, that is also doable. But if you do want to go Thor instead of Cyclone, you should actually get ground weapons then. Thors will benefit a lot.
Yeah, I think like with what limited experience I have using both units, I would prefer to use Cyclones over Thor for their anti-air properties.
Okay, yeah. I think Cyclone is. I think Thors are great late game against Zerg if you rotate into it eventually. But I think Cyclones are much more powerful early game, early to mid, because almost every Zerg is going to have the same response to a BC opener, and it's going to be try my best not to take damage and make a Spire and I'll get Corruptor. And as soon as they go Corruptor, if they have 6 Corruptor but you have 6 Cyclone and you lock on all 6, you can literally chase them until they die. And then it's just a bunch of free dead Corruptors. And they die so fast if you have that upgrade. It only takes 6 hits for it to die. And it shoots about a missile every like 0.8 seconds. So it goes pretty fast.
Okay. And do I care about smart servos at this point, or
not really? That's like an upgrade for later when you actually want, if you do want to switch into like Thor, you do it then.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Because you're definitely not going to want to be taking a lot of fights right now with a bunch of Hellbats. You're gonna want to more be going into the position where if the Zerg attacks you, you try to abuse it as much as you can. And ways that can happen is if the Zerg attacks you with, let's say, a bunch of units that don't have an Overseer, you could literally just fly over his army with like 6 or 9 speed Banshees at this point, because you'd be making 3 at a time. And it's very realistic to have a lot of them. And then you just cloak it. You have movement speed on them, so they can easily outrun like everything Zerg has except for a Zergling, and you kill as much as you can. And if he decides to turn around, you just chase it until he eventually does get an Overseer, and you just back up, but you kill so much in the process. Or if he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to attack you full on now and just kind of all in your base with this army, you just wait until he gets to your base to fight with your actual ground army, and just pick his army apart with Banshees until he gets there.
Okay.
But if he does have detection, what you can do to get around that is you can just wait until he gets to your base, and if he overextends his Overseer, because let's say he has everything in one control group and he A-moves your base, and Overseers fly in deep, you could pick it off and do the exact same thing again. Or if he's really, really good about keeping the Overseer alive, just try your best to lock on to his units with your Hellion Cyclone and just kite things. And then as you're kiting him, you can just use the Banshees to help support and just pick things off. But as long as you've macroed well, you should have enough to survive. Especially behind SimCity and Wall and stuff like that. It should help a lot.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's just going into that ground army mixed, like I would say Hellion Cyclone Banshee into a third base. And as soon as you have a saturated third, and you have all your all your upgrades are done, they're done being researched basically, other than armor and weapons, which is the only thing that's going to take like an extended period of time because you have to research it multiple times. Once you're at that stage, you would start an engineering bay and a 4th command center. And this fourth command center can be started anywhere you want. It could be actually at the fourth if you're confident, or it could be in your base and you can float it later. But this is going to become planetary fourth, and you're making the engineering bay too, because now you also are going to want to get building armor, and you're going to want to get a planetary. And it's going to allow you now to have a fourth base that you can rotate your workers to that are starting to mine out. And as you can see, if you look at your main base, it is starting to mine out. And around, like I was saying before, like 9 minutes is going to be, it could be when you be fully saturated on your third base. And you could have a fourth base being finished up here really soon to take a, rotate your SCVs around. And then when your fourth is done, you could, depending on how the game is going and how you're feeling, if you feel like you have a lot of control, you could take a fifth base. If you feel like you don't have as much control as you want, you could add on a couple more production buildings, like 2 more factories, to go up to now 5 factory, 3-star per production, and continue pumping an army if you're like losing lots every time you fight. It's really, it's like more of a gauging point for you to what you feel like is good. You know what I mean? Like if you have had like really cost efficient fights and you're like near max 30 and you can't really utilize this production as much, you definitely want to prioritize more in your economy so you can explode your production a little bit later. Otherwise, if you can't invest in more economy now because you're going to die, because you're losing too much army every time you fight, up your production a little bit more and slowly increase your economy at that point.
I see. Okay.
All right. And then the other thing too, a lot of times if you can keep the BCs alive from early game, if that's possible, it's actually great to use BCs as counterattack tools instead of actually part of your army. Once you get to like a good standing army outside of BC, and since you're going Hellbat Thor, which is okay, but I would say the best way to use this would be to you can like okay, so what you're doing right now is you're poking his creep. If you're gonna poke his creep, I'm okay with that. And having the BCs there for that is actually better now because you're gonna poke him. But if you, let's just say you were gonna play defensive and then get to this like 160 plus supply army and go for this big move out, you'd be much better off like teleporting the BCs into his mineral lines rather than using them to help you fight. Because it's gonna cause so much more confusion for the Zerg at that point, and you're gonna get so much guaranteed damage from that.
I just get killed here. Okay.
Yeah, this is this is what I'm gonna say really quick. This is the mindset of what I am thinking here. Thors are very, very slow, and they're also really strong in high numbers. But if you move them out with like a little bit of Thors, if your goal is to kill creep and you kind of just like kill some creep on the side, you back up, kill creep on the side, back up, I feel like that's okay. Because you'd force a Zerg to kind of commit really far out of his base, really far out of his comfort zone, and he won't fully understand how much you have, because you're keeping your army most of the time in fog. So Zerg will be more timid in that situation. But if you ever overcommit and like you go real deep into Zerg's base, and you feel like you're going to get overpowered, which is very likely if you have a limited amount of Thors, you can't retreat. And if you lose this army once, you kind of throw the game. Because this army takes a while to build. So if you want to play it a little safer, I would say honestly, if you're going to go Thor, probably don't move out at all until you have at least like 8 of them. Hellion Cyclone is a little bit more realistic to move out with because you could actually run away from his army if he chases you, since both Hellion Cyclone are pretty fast.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to go Thor, stay defensive and wait until you have like 160 supply that's like your quota, or like your goal, because once you're there, then if you move your army like onto creep and you scan and kill stuff, it's so much more deadly at that point. And then also that's when you'd be like, all right, I could bring my BCs into my army at first, and then let's say the corruptors are there and they come up to your Thors and shit like that. You could then be like, I'm gonna teleport into your main mineral line as far away from this fight as possible, but I'm gonna make you have to deal with that. And now the Zerg might actually just be like, all right, shit, I'm going to run my whole army back to stop those BCs. That will happen probably a lot. And if he does that, you could then take that as an opportunity to be like, all right, well, you just left, so I'm going to go kill your closest base to where my army is, like his third base. and now you just do guaranteed economy damage to where even if your army dies in this fight, you've still done crippling damage to him, because not only did you kill probably a ton of drones in the main when you teleported on it, but now you also killed his entire third. So now the Zerg might be sitting here in a situation where the Zerg only has like 32 drones, and you could have like 70 SCVs, and you could have all your new units you're rebuilding at home defend his counter pressure, because you'd be hiding behind planetaries, behind wall offs, with building armor, with extra units, all this kind of stuff. Whatever units you might have been able to run away with. And yeah, you would probably crush his army. It's very likely. And then if you defend that one time, you win the game, because there's no way Zerg will ever keep up with you again at that point. And your next attack that maxes out or gets high supply will guaranteed kill him. You just basically want to make the Zerg's life a lot harder. And then the other thing too is your depots in your main, like for building placement. Your depots in the main and your depots kind of at the natural. I would say the best way to have done this would have been to actually just build like the 2 depots at your natural the way you did in front, like the front wall.
Yeah,
and then you just build the depots in front of natural, or in front of the third the same way. Just like block the ramp off.
I see. Okay.
Because you obviously have the depots because you need them, but your first depots, if possible, should always be dedicated to walling off your ramps like this. If your build is a map control build, which this build totally is, so you don't have to, really have to worry about, because like the logic there is you definitely don't want to do it if, like, let's say you're doing like a build that doesn't have as much ground control. Let's like for instance, like a 2-on-1 build. I would not recommend building your depots in front of your third base right away with a 2-on-1, because like if you could only build 2 at your third, and then like now you're building more, or sorry, 2 at your natural, and now you're building more at your third. 2-on-1 is not really going to want to run out of its base until it has like stem pack or something like that, and you're really passive until it happens, which would mean your depots could easily die. So you obviously wouldn't want to do it then. But with this kind of a build, you totally can, because it's a Hellion opener, and it's a Starport opener, and Starport can shut down Roach Tech and Mainling Tech, and Hellion Tech can shut down Ling Tech, like pretty hard.
So you're saying that like my first 2 supply depots, like in.
Yeah, you could make depot. You could make depot 1 and 2 on top of your ramp, 3 and 4 in front of your natural, and depot number 5 could literally be in front of your third.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And you could just have like 1 SCV go over there and start building it, because your third command center would be landing and your mineral line would be rotating there around the time that would be fully walled off, and you wouldn't have to worry about like 20 lings running into your base and wiping out a mineral line, especially if your Hellions are kind of committed right now across the map, like the ones you already have out there, because then your new Hellions that are at home, because you're going to be making units the whole time, like let's say you have 4 new Hellions, they could go over there behind the wall and just smash the lings really quickly, and without having to have the concern of losing SCVs. And it'll just it'll clear up a little bit more room in your base too, to make it easier to like just throw factories down really fast or starports down really fast.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like, might as well, because if you actually leave 1 SCV over there anyways, let's say you build a depot, and then let's say you have like 600 minerals right now, you could literally shift click a second depot and just just let it be, and then now that SCV is going to be building depots for the next like 40 seconds, and then come back again a little bit later and do it again. Build 1 if you can only afford 1. If you can afford a lot, build like 1 or 2 and move on. And then while you're trying to do like BC attacks and Hellion attacks and stuff like that, and yeah, just build your depots as walls for your economy for your first 3 bases. It's not a bad idea.
I see. Okay.
But after that, you don't need to do it, because every base after that should probably be a planetary. It'll be way more exposed on the map.
Okay.
At that point, you could just be like sensor tower and planetary, and just like use the radar of the minimap. Oh no! Okay, good. I was like, this is gonna burn.
Yeah. Yeah. You're lucky right there.
Because you have the right idea. I just feel like it's because you can see like your third could already be fully saturated now, once all these SCVs start mining. But it's kind of like it's just all a little delayed. it could go a little faster. And again, it's all about just the build order pacing. Because if you give yourself too much production too fast, it definitely hiccups your production really hard, or your economy really hard. Sorry.
Right. Probably overreacted with the supply depots over here.
That's what I mean. It's you're already maxed out, and a few. I don't think all of them, but a few of those depots are definitely excessive. But now you also still have to make command centers and more stuff like that. So you definitely have, I feel like, too many depots, and those depots that are in your main could have actually been at your base down there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you would have had less costs to spend basically.
Right.
I would say too, alongside trying to balance having like a SCV build like a depot over like in front of your bases and stuff like that, try to also maybe have an SCV as soon as you build your third command center. When you can afford it, try to have that SCV just constantly building like one command center, one command center, one command center. And what you would do is if you're ready to take another base, you could like lift off and land to a new base to put a planetary there. But if all your bases are mining really, really solid and they're not really, you're not really about to mine out on any of your bases, you could actually just make an extra orbital in your main base or something like that, which would be, again, more room you'd have if you don't have supply depots in there as much.
Right. Okay.
Because that is something that you could work on doing too. That would make your end game insanely powerful. Because if you're in a situation where the map is kind of split, you're both maxed out, but you have, let's say right now at this point, because you did that, you have 3 planetaries at 3 extra expansions. So now you're on like 6 bases. But now instead of only having 3 orbitals, you have 7, okay, or like 6 at like 17 minutes or 18 minutes of the game. And you're like, all right, I want to have a really, really scary army right now, and I have so many orbitals, and I can even keep making more orbitals if I really want to, like one at a time. But I want to have a really scary army. What you could actually do is instead of having like, let's say around like 70 SCVs, you could sacrifice all but like 20 of them, and you could just have like 20, 21, something around there, just mining gas. Only gas. And all your mineral income could become from mules at that point. And then your army supply just turns into like 180 army supply death ball, which is really hard for Zerg to kill at that point. But that's something you wouldn't do until late game.
Like 20 minutes plus?
Yeah, like we're talking like you have enough orbitals to do that. So you're not going to be like, ah, shit, I have no money now because I threw away all my SCVs when I still needed money. Like you'd probably have like a bank that's like 5,000 minerals already, and you're maxed, and you don't really have upgrades to spend anymore. Like all your shit's already 3-3 fully upgraded, and you have like all your production already. Let's say you have like 5 starports and like 10 factories. You could totally then be like, all right, let's throw away all my mineral SCVs and only keep like 4 base gas saturation or maybe 5 base gas saturation going, and then that'll be good. And then have like another SCV just still building like just one SCV, still building like periodic command centers to add in more orbitals or more planetaries to more expansions.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
And then yeah, your army will just trade like, because that's kind of the way that most races, but especially Terran, work in this game. And it's the more you have, it's like if you have 5 Thors or 6 Thors, 6 Thors will do exceptionally better than 5. Because their range and because they kill so fucking fast, it actually just makes them like it's simple being like, oh yeah, more means more damage, but like it actually just makes them perform even better. And it like they just like even if the ratios are the same, the more mech you have, the better it trades. Is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So yeah, like it's having a scary army like that is definitely a game-ending move if you can get to that point. And a trick, I'm gonna tell you a trick really fast if you ever fight against Swarmhost, because if you're ever the kind of player that wants to go defensive Thors, you will probably play against Zerg players who do this kind of shit a lot.
Right, yeah. Sure.
What you should do, this will fuck Zerg over so bad, because I guarantee most Zergs you're gonna play against are not gonna micro their Locust. You just back your Hellions up, or your Hellbats. The fact that they're Hellbats right now is perfect. But you back them up to the Thors a little bit more because they're a little bit far out right now. And the reason why is because if a if a locust is still in the air, okay, and it attacks, it's starting to, like, it's on a move right now, and it wants to land on something, but a Thor shoots it before it's already landing. The locust in that area will all get aggroed to that Thor now, because the way AI will work for a locust is it will always land on a unit that can hit air first, because it's an air unit right now.
Okay.
So if you make the locust land on a Thor, and you have Hellions around the Thor, the second they land, they will all get roasted by Hellbats in AoE. They'll all just die. And because they're all going to be landing like in the center of a bunch of Hellbats. But if you let the Hellbats kind of like stand out in front of the Thors, and the Thors don't shoot the locust fast enough before they start diving into the Hellbat, the locust will land and they'll bunch up outside of getting AoE'd, and they'll start killing a bunch of Hellbats, and it'll actually be effective for Zerg then.
Okay.
So just bait them on the Thor, and you won't even lose a single unit. Like, you'll lose literally nothing. Because all the locusts will try to kill the Thor, and they won't kill shit.
All right.
So, like, you even didn't even lose anything there, really. But yeah.
Oh, this is horrifying right here. Oh, Jesus.
It wasn't as bad as you think. That was expensive as fuck for Zerg to do that. And if you can, like, Zerg's bank is pretty big though, so he can kind of afford it. But yeah, if you're ever up against a bunch of Banes like that, you can just try to like green box your army and spread it out a little bit, because even if you're not killing it, he's gonna kill himself. And then right here too, if you had imagine if all these Vikings were Banshees. Like, you actually wouldn't even have to engage at all.
That's true, yeah.
And then if the Zerg player was if the Zerg player goes for like Swarmhost, Baneling, and Corruptor, the best thing you could probably do would be either build one Raven at this point, or get ready to scan a lot, and just literally worry about wiping out his creep. And if he ever wants to stop you from doing that, fight him off creep. And if he ever has his army coming at you with all of it at once, where it's like a bunch of Corruptor, a bunch of Baneling, and a bunch of Swarmhosts being launched at you, you can try your best to like avoid the Swarmhost or AoE them down, how we talked about, but also at the same time try to like maybe not have your entire army in a big fat clump and just spread it out a little bit, and you can absorb it. But if you can kind of manage to do that, a Banshee actually flies faster than a Corruptor, so you can definitely pick at him, and then if he commits with the Corruptors to fighting you, you can just run away and do a lot of damage with it, very realistically. And then from there, if you actually, let's say you start controlling the ground a lot more against what he's doing, you could totally beat Broodlords if your composition was still Hellion, Banshee, and Thor. Because like Thor's, if this guy has right now, he has what is this? This is 11 Broodlords. You could beat 11 Broodlords with like 10 Thors or like 8 Thors, especially if you have Hellbats next to your Thors, like moving towards the Broodlords, because your Hellbats will just continuously wipe out all the Broodlings, so your Thors don't get caught up. And now that Thors and high impact payload have more range than Broodlords, you can make, basically what that means is his Broodlords have to commit into you, because you can effectively siege him then. You can shoot him before he's in range to shoot you, and Thors kill Broodlords so fucking fast. So as long as you just have enough at that point, you'd win. But yeah, if you only have like less than half of the Broodlords, you're probably going to lose.
Right.
You need to have comparable numbers. But yeah, at this point, I feel like you're kind of screwed just because it's an economy problem now.
But yeah, no, I'm 100% super dead here.
Yep.
Yeah.
You honestly could have possibly won earlier before you took that fight, or before the fight with the Banelings at your third, if it would have been a little bit more efficient for you. But yeah, that if you had Banshees instead of Vikings, it would have definitely, you could have picked off so much of the Swarmhost even being committed across the map, or just a bunch of the Banes before they actually engaged.
Right, right.
But yeah, any questions about that game and about all that stuff we kind of just went over?
No, I think you pointed out a bunch of things that just, you know, were totally out of my awareness.
Yeah.
that like I need to work on and perfect before I can develop like more sophisticated questions. Like it's the session really showed me how thing that I did was
Yeah.
good. I mean that's good. Like that's what I want to find out, right?
Yeah, for sure. If I were to go back and kind of like recap really fast on what was the most important as well, I would say your build order definitely needs to be a little fixed. And if you want a recap on it, I'll give you another one. But yeah, just make sure you have the build correct. And then the other one is the way you harass and your harassment, I guess. I feel like there's a bit of missed opportunity there because the thing about the harassment of the opener of pretty much every single game of StarCraft is Terran is definitely a race that relies more on harassment than other races, I would say. And not utilizing it as well as you could be, it sets the pace for a game where you're going to feel like you might actually be more behind than you should be, or not ahead at all. So fixing those things up for yourself will make everything feel easier. It'll like, if you have like 50 problems, fixing those two will eliminate like half of those problems.
Right.
So yeah, that's should help you out a lot if you work on those for a bit.
I know for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna look at these notes and I'm gonna concentrate on fixing everything right away.
Yeah, man. And then that one actually took a little bit longer than I kind of expected. But I want to give you an option. Would you rather go into the different type of opener I was talking about? It's kind of like a Hellbat. It'd be like kind of like a Hellbat Marauder medevac opener into like Hellion Cyclone, and then Banshee eventually. Or would you rather recap another replay and go into like more of something you've kind of done before?
Oh, maybe go into the new like build order that you just suggested, like the former.
All right. So.
Are you good on time, man?
Yeah, no, dude, I'm good. We're doing it. I'm doing it, man.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, dude.
That's all good, man. I don't mind. Make me a leader really fast, and then I'll give an example build.
Okay.
God, my nose is just running this whole. The only thing that sucks for me is my my nose and my sneezing. I'm like trying to manage it as best I can, but I'm having a lot of allergies right now. It sucks.
Dude, I sneeze all the time at work, like 24/7 sneezing.
Yeah. I think it's because I readjusted one of my stream lights before I started streaming today, and I think it was dusty. So now my room is like probably so much dust just flying around. It's a bad idea.
You have a German Shepherd, dude?
I do, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I have two.
Dude, German Shepherd brothers.
GSDs for life.
Oh my god, German Shepherds are actually pretty awesome. I've never had one before, but my god, the dog is like so smart about everything.
Yeah, no, yeah, my German Shepherds are probably like.
They're like what? Yeah, your mic cut out.
I was saying like my German Shepherds are probably like Masters 3.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, like my dog loves going on like car rides and stuff, and she loves just going out with anyone whenever they leave. And like every time, it doesn't matter when, but if you're getting up to like go get a drink or go do something, there's no sign or indicator that you're going anywhere, and she doesn't really care. But you don't even have to do something as a parent as like getting your car keys or something like that. But as soon as you get up and you have the intention of leaving, somehow she like always knows. And she's like, I'm going. I want to go. I want to go. She gets like super excited super fast.
Yeah. That's how they are, man.
What's going on? SCV ready. Ah, it's here.
All right. So
Bad news.
I kind of messed one thing up so far. It's the Scout of SCV. This SCV should have been the 15th SCV, but it is the 17th. That's what we just talked about earlier. So just keep that in mind. It should be 15.
Yeah, got it.
I'll even say it just if you watch this replay in the future and you forget about it. So you can see that. You're like, oh yeah, I remember now.
Cool.
But we'll just say hypothetically if the Zerg is going for like a expansion build, and we could put a CC on the low ground, which would be fine. but it's going to be definitely a
Yo,
CC after
well down.
barracks,
Let's go.
and then we go into a SCV, and right as the orbital finishes, we can send an SCV down to the ramp, because it'll pace out about a depot around the same time. It's like we're basically setting it up when we have like 50 after building an SCV.
Bad news.
And then our SCV that's scouted can come home,
SCV ready.
and our Reaper could go attack. And it's kind of like a similar starting to the opener, but then it kind of switches midway.
Gear.
You can start a factory.
SCV
As your
Sure,
chat
second
is
guess.
making more fun of me.
The chat's making fun of you.
No, I'm surprised it's not.
Oh, yeah, chat's pretty chill. That's good. I think a lot of people actually learn as well. They're like, oh, I didn't know that.
What's
Yeah.
going on? Go ahead. SCV ready.
Alright, and then go for a starport as soon as you can, right after the factory. And we are going to switch the barracks and the factory. And then we're going to make a tech lab on the barracks, but this time we're going to keep the tech lab on the barracks, and we're going to go for immediate,
Again.
Marauder is what I'm trying to say, sorry. Marauder Hellion.
Okay.
Big job.
Okay.
And in this build, you can do it with about 2 medevacs. And it's a really good, like, strong timing.
SCV ready.
And then just, with the depots at my natural, those are being made by the SCV that made the command center. So the second the CC was done, I started building depots there.
SCV ready.
Alright, so priorities now are Marauder production, and then medevac production, and then Hellion production, and then fitting in upgrades between. And then as soon as I have enough money to spare, where I'm not going to miss something, also SCVs are important too. And as soon as I have enough money where I can actually afford something in addition to all this, I make an armory like right now.
I'm going.
Because an armory will be building and it'll be finishing around the time I get it across the map.
Ready for dust off.
Ready to raise some hell.
And now I'm going to make one more medevac, and when this medevac finishes, that's going to be the time to move out.
Okay. And this is a drop or no?
Nope. It's just you walk into his base and you attack him. And your Reaper could be periodically checking and seeing what's going on and harassing a drone if you feel like you have any time to do that. Any idle time.
Okay.
New technology researched.
Okay, so once this last round of units pop out of my stuff, my 2 Hellions, my Marauder, and my last medevac, we'll go move out.
Ready for dust off.
And you could even do, if you want to be really cheeky and crazy, you could grab 4 Hellbats, like this,
Sounds
and you could load them into medevacs. You don't have to do this, by the way, but you could. And you could move out like this. And from here now, you can make a, build-wise, you can make a 3rd command center, and you could go into a second and a 3rd factory, and go into, now you'd be going into the same exact thing where it would be the BC transition. From the other build, it would be like going from BCs into Hellion Cyclone Banshee. Now it'd be going from this opener into Hellion Cyclone Banshee.
Okay. Do you think you could play through the 3rd CC and the
Sure.
production?
And then when you attack him, it would just be a bunch of snaring Marauders with Hellbats, and you could like boost in your medevacs and drop on his queens or something like that, or on something. And this will do so much fucking damage to a Zerg. It'll kill a lot of Zergs. And then you make a starport on the, actually, you know what? Don't even make a technical starport. You would swap out. My bad. You'd swap out the barracks and the starport now, so you have a tech lab there already. And then you immediately will start cloak. You start
Hellbat coming through.
a Banshee, and you can start upgrade as well on your armory. And then you start a couple of whatever they're called. Jesus, a couple of
Reports.
factories. Sorry, I thought I built my 3rd command center, but I never did. I
I
think
you did too.
I think I might have moved my SCV somehow while I was doing it. But yeah, it would just be third CC and get it going. And as soon as the SCV is done building the third, once you have all your upgrades going, like your blue flame, your missile upgrade, your all your Hellions being produced, all your stuff is going basically, and you're not really able to spend your money again at that point because it's starting to go up again. You would then add on your fourth command center, your armory, or your engineering bay, that kind of shit, and you just keep making an army like this, an army of 2 factory, or 3 factory, 1 starport, Hellion, Cyclone, and then a little bit of Banshee. You don't actually add the extra starports until your third base is being landed at your third, and you can actually afford it. Because you can see right now I'm pretty broke in the gas department. And my third should have already been done because it's kind of delayed.
Right.
But, yeah, you get the point. And we're just oversaturating our bases, our natural. And once our third is going to be going to our third base, it'll just already have some saturation going to it. No, so I'm not even following my own rule I gave you just a second ago. I should have actually built the depots first in front of my third.
Army upgraded.
And yeah, this is kind of it, because you can see now I've got kind of like everything
Center upgraded.
spent here. My money's kind of down. I have the 4th CC started. I can start an engineering bay right now. My base is starting to mine out, which is why this is actually a good pacing to have your 4th. Because you're not going to have the situation where you're just mining inefficiently forever at that point. You're going to fix it really fast.
Okay.
And then when your 4th base lands, you can just, or your 3rd base lands, sorry, you can already like pretty much saturate the mineral line. And then from here, once this is down, then you would do something like in the main base, go back there, throw on your extra starports, and throw on your next armory again.
Okay.
And then you be going into your double upgrades. You can drop your mills at your 3rd base, and your next base could be the planetary going at your 4th. And if you feel like your production's all kind of running, that's priority always. Make sure you're not neglecting your production. And it's like now we just did. And as soon as that's kind of all up and running, our next income, because you can see it's going up so fucking fast here. Throw our command center down again, and then we're good. And now start a planetary at our next base and start building armor around the same time. And now once our 3rd base is fully saturated, which is actually pretty much now, just saturate the 4th base. And you do this all the way up to like seriously about 80 SCVs. 75, 80. Yeah, like go up to like 75 to 80 SCVs. Try to get like 4 fully saturated bases, and then just maintain your production as well as you can. And then, yeah, man, it's you're gonna be maxing out really, really fast, and you're pretty much there. And then this is like, you know, the game is up to you now at this point to decide how you want to kind of play it out. If you want to be where you want to attack, what you want to do with it. But if the game does not end with this kind of a timing, and you're like, all right, well, now what do I do? This is when you could be like, all right, now I'm going to start switching into like Thors, maybe add in a couple BCs, stuff like that. You could actually switch your comp up to something more deathball-y for in-game. That's more expensive, because now you can actually afford it and not have to worry about not being able to afford it. And once you max out too, that's what's going to also alleviate some of your expenses for production, in the sense of like you're not going to have to build things out of your buildings anymore. So now is when you'd be like, all right, let's add on like 4 more factories and like maybe 1 more starport. It's really up to you how much you want to add, but this is when you'd want to add it on. And now what it would do is you're still going to get a bank that's really high out of this, especially if you're continuously building your CCs, getting your whole base up and running really well. But now when you lose an army in a big fight, you can remax so much faster. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
What kind of damage am I hoping to get done with that initial like 5-minute, 30-second push out?
I feel like at first you're probably gonna just honestly win a lot of games with it. Not even kidding, because Zergs who do not make roaches and do not make banelings will just straight up die. They should die. But if the Zerg is someone who prepared for it well,
Expended.
and they made like a proper defense, like they made roaches for let's say they have like 12 roaches, which should be able to defend that, and like a few queens. What you're hoping for is you're hoping to overpower some of his units and try your best to maybe get some Hellions into his drones and kill drones as well. If you know you're not going to kill him right now, try to kill drones. And one of the best ways you can do this is kind of how I was saying a second ago with the medevacs. Like, if you see someone that looks like they're going to... If you want to try doing this, if you see someone that looks like they're going to die, like they don't have a lot, they have Queen Zergling, 100% you could load like 4 Hellions, 4 Hellbats into the medevacs and just land them on the Queens or something like that and kill them, and land them on the Lings and kill them, and you're probably going to win the game. But if it looks like someone is going to not die, and it's like, all right, this guy's 100% going to survive this, but maybe I'll do some damage. What you instead could do is you could leave one of your medevacs to heal your army that's fighting his, and just buy your army more time to kill whatever he has and keep him busy. But you could actually take 2 of your Hellbats and put them in one medevac and fly to his mineral line with it and land on his drones and just micro that and focus fire as many drones as you can. And if you can kill like even like 10 drones or like 12 drones with that, you're at a lead at that point. You're definitely ahead. Because that build is definitely not an all-in because you take a third behind it. It's just your current units you've been producing that go attack.
Right. Okay.
And
All right.
the last thing is the great thing about the follow-up of if you do that kind of an opener, if a Zerg defends it properly with roaches, or let's say maybe he gets really juicy Bane hits, and let's say he cleans it up better than others, like he cleans it up really well, and you're like, wow, that was good defense. If he decides he wants to attack you, the great thing about that build is if you rotate your starport with the right after 2 medevacs, try to do it like this perfectly, but right after 2 medevacs, rotate your barracks and your starport before you do the fight, and start making banshees as the fight is going on. And if the guy wants to launch a counterattack, Banshee will shut everything down. Because the only way he can counterattack you is with Roach, Ravager, or Baneling. And Banshee can kill all of that.
Okay.
Alright, dude.
To go over, man, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. It was good. I hope you're actually one of my I think my second time I've ever coached Terran. And I will say I think my Terran knowledge is a little bit less than my Zerg knowledge, but I feel like it went well. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I mean, if your main is Zerg, right?
Yeah, it is. My
Yeah,
Zerg,
so I mean,
my
like,
Zerg
you
knowledge
have
is ridiculously good.
Like converse or obverse understanding, right? Like you know what it's like to play against a Terran, so you understand like vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So
just well, I will say I think I understand ZVT really well because it's a Zerg involved matchup. But if you were to be like, hey, I'm right now I'm Masters 2 or something, or maybe something around there, and you were like, I want TvT coaching, I'd be like, oh, dude, I don't know.
yeah, right.
I don't know if you came to the right place. My my Terran other matchups are maybe not as like I know I could totally give you some insight on it, but yeah, I struggle there too. So I'm definitely kind of reworking my own playstyles there.
Good. Okay. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time, man.
No worries, dude.
Get it. I'll probably get another coaching lesson in like a week or 2 or something after I've been able to actually like make use of the information you provided me. So
sounds good.
Again, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you as well, and have a good rest of your night, dude.
Yeah, thank you. All right. See you later.
See you, man.